Good morning. I feel there seems to be a lot of seating down in front here. Hi, everyone. I'm Phil Van Fossen. I'm the Interim Dean of the College of Education and also the Ackerman Distinguished Professor. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to our second annual Purdue AI and P12 Education Conference. As far as we know, this conference is still the only one of its kind in Indiana. Someone can prove me wrong, but I think we still are. And the college is very excited to take the lead in this area of ever-increasing importance, namely artificial intelligence use in education. Response to the conference has been great. We have over 300 attendees, although I imagine today's weather is going to put a little bit of a dent in that. So thanks to you hardy souls who've made it here. Appreciate that. There are 50 sessions to choose from, and this year's conference theme is empowerment, focusing on how AI can be used to leverage educational stakeholders and to empower particularly teachers and their students. Over the last 3 decades, I've conducted research on internet use in social studies classrooms. It seems relatively quaint now when I think about it. You know, back in 1991, the invention of the internet by Tim Berners-Lee, not Al Gore, as some people believe. But over those 3 decades, I followed the kind of trend line of adoption. And so, you know, a few years after 1993, 1994, 10% of classrooms were wired. It took over a decade to get 100% of classrooms wired. But the trend in adoption for AI is moving so much more quickly than that. For example, last year, Rand American Educators Panel, it's a national survey data set, they sent out a survey roughly 1 year after OpenAI GPT was launched in November of 2022. And they found that a year after that launch, that 25% of the surveyed K-12 teachers were already reporting use of AI tools for instructional planning or teaching, and more than half of the English language arts and science teachers were reporting using AI tools. And nearly 60% of US principals and administrators reported using AI tools for their work, much more quickly indeed than internet use adoption. And you can imagine, or maybe you can't imagine, teaching today without the internet, and I think we're headed in similar directions as far as AI. So I wanted to know a bit more about how AI was being used in those classrooms, and this may become part of every speech you ever sit in, or at least in the near future, about AI. So what I did was ask AI about AI. Insert laugh line? No? Okay, never mind. Thank you. So I asked Copilot, in this case my prompt was, please identify the 5 most impactful uses of AI in K-12 education. And here's what Copilot responded. Number 1, personalized learning. Number 2, intelligent tutoring systems. 3, automated grading. 4, predictive analytics. And 5, accessibility and inclusive education. Now, obviously, these uses of AI in educational contexts are only one side of the coin. Noted tech writer Peter Leiden writes that there are some issues of concern in terms of that use: ethical, policy, practical, potential for bias in AI algorithms, and so on. But Leiden writes, if we focus on these challenges while at the same time utilizing the benefits to those uses I just outlined, that we can create a more inclusive and effective learning environment for all students. So I'm sure that one of the reasons you're here today is that you are wrestling with similar issues that Leiden outlines and that others have outlined related to AI use. So no matter where you are in your AI journey, I hope your experiences today will help you address one or more of these important issues. So again, I extend a warm Boilermaker welcome to this year's conference. It's now my pleasure to introduce the real leadership behind this conference, the person most directly responsible for putting it together, and that's Professor Bill Watson. Bill's a professor in our Learning Design and Technology program and director of the Purdue Center for Serious Games and Learning in Virtual Environments. More importantly, he chairs our AI Data Science Working Group, and he's been a key player in the development of Purdue University's Masters in AI, not just in the College of Education, but across the university, Masters in AI. In fact, he helped design and teach the very first course in that program. So needless to say, Bill has been at the center of our college's AI data science efforts over the last 3 years, and we're grateful for his leadership. So thank you, Bill, and please join me in welcoming Bill to the podium as he outlines some things for the conference and then introduces our excellent keynote speaker. So thank you again and welcome.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you very much for being here, particularly in the weather. I know I was getting some cancellations last night coming in, or people saying we'll have to see how things are going to go from this morning when they're coming up from around Chicago area. They're getting hit pretty hard. So thank you very much for being here. You know, as Phil mentioned, AI, has been around for a while, but it kind of came suddenly into our lives, right? It had been around, but suddenly it's in our pockets. It's available to everyone. So everyone is scrambling to figure out, how do we manage this? What does it mean for our learning, what our learning looks like? My research at large is focused on leveraging technology to realize a personalized paradigm of education rather than a time-based one. And so back since I was in grad school, it was talking about how can we use technology to personalize things. And when we were envisioning some of the learning management systems back then, we were like, and then something is going to happen over here, and then this is going to happen. And I think AI is the solution to that, and that it can do so many of these things. But it's a very disruptive technology, and as it is a disruptive technology, it can also be used in the wrong way. And that's one of the main things that I've been trying to talk to people about, is that it's not enough to say we need to go all in AI, or to say we need to ban AI from the students and they're not allowed to use it. All of us really need to be involved in a conversation about what good use looks like, how it can be problematic, how we can make sure that we're leveraging it for the right reasons while trying to avoid some of the pitfalls that can exist there, particularly with our youth. And so I really think this conference is really important for us to have that conversation. And conversation is a really big piece of what I hope that we do here, and that we have a lot of teachers presenting to other teachers, and the opportunity for us to engage with each other and talk about what's working, because no one has the answers, right? And things change very quickly in this world. So keeping that in mind, also keep us in mind for next year, because we're planning to keep this thing going and making sure that we have a good place for these conversations to take place. So welcome, we're glad you're here. I did want to provide a QR code. If you want to follow what the College of Ed is doing, including in the AI space, we are on a variety of platforms. The YouTube one in particular, we have a playlist devoted explicitly to AI, so you're able to get in anything that we get there, guest speakers that we have in, or presentations that we're doing. We're trying to add it to that playlist so that you have the opportunity to see that. Last year's Keynote is up there as well, so you have the opportunity to follow us and see what we're up to on a variety of platforms. And I still see cameras out, so I will pause and then go forward. All right. I also really wanted to thank our Level 3 sponsors. We can't make this conference happen without support, and we have a lot of people wanting to engage around this topic. So I also wanted to highlight that our sponsors, we have a sponsor room where you can get coffee and snacks are up there now, and then lunch will be there later. That's in Stewart 214, so it's pretty central to the location. So do please take a moment during break this morning for coffee and over lunchtime to engage with our sponsors. A lot of them have some really useful resources for you to try to help you on your journey as you continue forward in this area. The conference program is up on this website. We also have some printouts of this QR code posted around Stewart, so you should be able to have access to it. And basically, we have 4 large sessions, which are each divided up into about 10 session presentations. The research ones have 3 presentations in each of them. The other ones go for the full 50 minutes. So you can kind of map out. There's a lot of great content that's being presented today. We had nearly double the number of proposals from last year, so we really had to turn away some excellent proposals. So I'm really excited about what we have going on. So take a moment to look through there and identify which sessions you're wanting to hit throughout the day. And I know it's snowy outside, but I buried some pretty good ones in that last 4th session, so don't skip out too early in the day. There's some good ones there. So this is our overall schedule. I referenced those 4 sessions. We have the keynote going till 10, and then our first session, and then a little break after that. Again, there's coffee, water, drinks, snacks, and Stewart 214, and the opportunity to engage with our sponsors. Some of them are recruiting actively for some research studies with their products, and the opportunity for you to get access to things more easily than you otherwise might be able to. So do please pop into there. Second session after that, and then lunch, and then our last 2 sessions. And again, I held some pretty good ones for that final 2:30, 3:20 slot. So do make sure that you catch those as well. And a few reminders. Again, the research sessions have 3 15-minute presentations within them, with 5 minutes for questions in there. All the other threads are, whether it's AI tools or whether it's ethics and policy, these sorts of things, are full 50 minutes, questions included. For those who are in the research sessions, if the presenters could please help each other keep track of time and make sure you give each other warning so that you can all have the amount of time, I would appreciate that. If you're posting about today's conference on social media, these are our hashtags. We'd love for you to use those to help us engage and grow our audience as well. And again, Stewart 214 is our sponsor room where you can get your snacks and coffee and drinks, and where you will pick up your lunch. All right, I am so excited to have our keynote speaker this year, Kate Maxwell. Kate has an amazing background. We had dinner last night with a group of us and learned even more about what she's been doing and what she's up to. So she's an accomplished engineering, technology, and industry leader with more than 20 years of experience supporting public sector customers around the globe. She holds 2 patents and has been recognized with multiple prestigious industry awards, including being named the #1 woman in tech by Technology Magazine in 2023. Currently, and not for long, I think, from what Kate said, Kate is serving as the Interim CEO for TechPoint Youth. She'd been on the board before that, a nonprofit organization equipping Indiana's underserved K-12 students with hands-on STEM learning opportunities. Prior to that, Kate led Microsoft's worldwide education industry, supporting K-12 higher education and research customers around the globe. Kate was also the Chief Technology Officer for Worldwide Defense and Intelligence at Microsoft, where her customers include the U.S. Department of Defense, allied nations, and NATO member states around the globe. Kate is a vocal and dedicated advocate for STEM outreach and engagement. She founded the annual Maxwell Scholarship for Women in Engineering and Computing, now in its 15th year, and frequently volunteers her time to advance educational initiatives around the world. And apart from being a wonderful speaker, she's also a passionate change agent, which really speaks to my desire, my research as well, of being able to shift the way that we do education so it's more engaging, active, and problem-oriented for our students, and relies less on piling everything on the shoulders of our teachers. And so she's been working towards that and getting STEM opportunities, learning opportunities for students around the state, including with her scholarship, helping students get into STEM majors in college and STEM careers. So I'm so grateful that we have her here. I know you're going to love her presentation. She's also built in some time to take your questions. So do be thinking about possible questions for her while she's presenting. And either I or I'll grab one of my students if I can see them in the dark and make them take a microphone around to take your questions. So do be thinking about that. And please give a warm welcome to Kate Maxwell.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's great to see you here, and I'm glad to see everybody arrived safely. Thank you for braving the weather. And thanks, of course, to Dr. Watson for the invitation. I'm delighted to be here today. I do live here in Indiana, so it's always lovely to be close to home, having these conversations about AI and education. And frankly, I look forward to learning from you all today. So thank you again for the opportunity. As Dr. Watson shared, I am currently the Interim CEO of TechPoint Youth. Some of you may have come across this organization. We are the premier provider of STEM learning opportunities for students in this state. I'm a computer scientist by trade, and I was born and raised in Amish country, Pennsylvania. So computer science was not really on my family's bingo card for me as a potential career choice, and I was introduced to that opportunity through educators just like you. And it has changed my life, and I'm eternally grateful for it. So let me start by saying thank you for what you do. You all are making such a huge difference in the world and in the lives of our young people. As you also heard in my bio, I've spent the past 2 years leading the worldwide education industry at Microsoft, and what an extraordinary time to be in that role. Not only is education transforming around the world due to a variety of circumstances and environmental conditions, but we also, of course, had this incredible moment in generative AI that really started in the public in November of 2022 when ChatGPT was released to the wild. So it was just an incredible time to be working in the education space. And I think it is fair to say that education currently sits at a little bit of an inflection point. I think that's a true statement in this country, and I think we saw the same thing around the world as well. AI is a big part of that. AI presents an enormous opportunity to augment and transform how we teach, how we learn, how we create, how we interact with each other as human beings and also with machines. And so with that in mind, we're going to have a conversation today that, of course, focuses on the opportunities, right? The things that we can do differently, hopefully to grow our impact and those student outcomes. We're going to talk about the challenges too, because we are still very much in the early days of this generative AI movement, and we need to go into it eyes wide open about both the opportunities and the potential pitfalls. So we're going to share some of that stuff today, and I'll issue a disclaimer right now. As a former Microsoftie, my bias is probably going to be a little bit on display here. You are going to see some examples from my time at Microsoft just because those are the ones that are personal to me. I can take questions on them, but I don't mean to imply that Microsoft is the end-all be-all. There are tons of fantastic technology partners and vendors out there, and we'll talk through some of those as well. So please forgive my bias, but these examples are personal ones to me. So I'll start with a quote actually from my boss, Satya Nadella, at Microsoft. He says, AI is the defining technology of our generation. The defining technology. That's a big statement. I think it's also a true statement. If you look at what's behind this, there is an extraordinary rate of change that's happening in the AI world. It's challenging Moore's law as we know it. We're seeing advancements come out now on the order of hours and days and weeks instead of years and decades. It's hard to keep up with, but it's an extraordinary time. We're also seeing intense scale of impact across all industries. And of course, there's this explosive adoption curve as well. It's probably unfair to call it a curve. It's practically a straight line, those adoption trends. So we're seeing AI reshape every industry on the planet. Education, of course, yes. Healthcare, energy, government, finance, manufacturing, creative fields, you name it. AI is becoming ubiquitous very quickly in our daily lives and in our work. And what I hear a lot of experts talk about frequently is, this feels like the Industrial Revolution. This is that big of a pivot that's happening. This is an extraordinary shift that is changing the way that we work and create and interact and think. And I think, again, it's important to say these are still the infancy days of generative AI, and the hype cycle sometimes can be overwhelming. There is a lot of information out there. Every single day, we are met with new news stories, new language models that have been released. Sometimes the news can contradict itself about, is AI good, is AI bad, is this helping students, is this hurting students? It's hard to get a beat on what the truth is. And it's also hard sometimes to keep pace with all of this change because the change is happening so rapidly. Not to mention, I know we all have a vested interest in maintaining trust and transparency in this moment as we adopt these new tools. So I share all of this because if anybody out there ever has those moments where you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, or perhaps a little bit of analysis paralysis because of all of this dump of information that's happening on a daily basis, it's okay to feel that way. I work in technology. We feel that way at Microsoft even. So it's perfectly normal. I want to reassure you, you are staying ahead of the curve by investing in your own education and being here today. You are part of the conversation that is helping to advance what we know about AI and how we can apply it. So take pride in that, and please try not to get too overwhelmed by the glut of information. Hopefully you can see that as an exciting time as well. I have a lot of use cases and examples that I want to share with you today because I think it's helpful to see how others in education are using AI and what's working and what's not. So we will get to those. I do want to take a moment to reflect on the moment we're in right now and how we got here. And when we look back over the full course of human history, we can see lots of examples of incredible innovations that when they came to the world and to the public, they changed life as we know it. The printing press, the light bulb, penicillin, the internet. These are world-changing technologies that did change life, and in many cases the workplace for it, but there's a cautionary tale to each one of these. One of the great tragedies of innovation is that when we as humans invent something so wonderful and so extraordinary and so impactful, and then we fail to get it out to everybody in the world, we have failed in our reach. And some of these date back to the 1400s, some of these still haven't reached every single person on this planet, literally hundreds of years later. And so when we miss the opportunity to democratize incredible inventions, we have failed as human beings. And when this occurs, it means we're contributing to the divide rather than using innovation to help solve for it. I want to share some satellite imagery now that hopefully illustrates that point. This is what our world will look like tonight as night falls across the various regions and geographies. We are now 150 years removed from when the world's first power plant was built in New York City. And when you look at this map, you can see there are large swaths of continents that still don't have access to electricity even now. Africa is a great example of that. 43% of the continent of Africa, the people there won't be able to turn on the light bulb tonight that Edison lit back in 1878. That is a failing on our part as humans and as technologists, and we need to reflect on this as a people and a society as we advance in this era of artificial intelligence, right? AI is the next great general purpose technology innovation. It is changing the world as we know it, and we need to make sure that it's democratized so it changes life in a positive way for everyone rather than just for the privileged few. And I think for the people in this room, right, for those of us who serve in the education ecosystem, we have an opportunity here to use AI for good and to drive real and meaningful outcomes for students. And we have to work together across public-private partnerships and use AI to actively address the divide rather than contribute to it, like we see on this slide. So we all have a part to play in figuring out what is the appropriate way to use AI in our schools, in our communities, in our workplaces, in our lives, and how do we do that in a responsible and a human-centered way? That is a question that we need to grapple with every single day, especially in these early days. And it's why I'm glad to see events like this happening so we can foster that dialogue and seek to do this responsibly. So I have a few sections built into this presentation. We're going to talk about the power of AI, the perils of AI, and the promise of AI in education. And I want to start with the power. This moment represents a fundamental shift, and we need to talk about why AI is such a critical skill for students to learn at every level now. And let's start with the work phase, okay? Generative AI, I already mentioned, came into the public in November of 2022. That is only 3 years ago. I don't know about you all. I feel like it's been here for a decade because so much change has happened, but it's only been 3 years. In the first 5 days of ChatGPT being released to the wild, it reached 1 million users around the world, and that made it the fastest growing application in the history of the digital world. And it did not stop there. By 1 year later, November of 2023, it had already reached 116 million users. Here we are, just 3 years removed from that launch, and generative AI in many ways has become ubiquitous in our work and in our lives. 78% of all businesses worldwide now use generative AI for at least one function. 99% of the Fortune 500 is using it regularly. Not to mention 82% of business leaders surveyed around the world say they expect to use AI agents to help them close the workplace capacity gap that many of them are facing. This is a fundamental shift in how we do work, and it happened in the space of only 3 years. Likewise, there's a recent LinkedIn study that I think is pretty good. They say that in 2030, 70% of the skills that we use in today's job market are going to change and evolve, and AI is the catalyst for that change. And 66% of business leaders in 2025 say they wouldn't even hire somebody for a role without some level of baseline AI skills. And that's not just about the technical roles. We're talking about all roles in all industries. So when we look at these statistics in aggregate, what this says to me is AI has already become a critical workplace skill. It can mean the difference between someone landing the job or not, and we know this talent market is incredibly competitive. So I think regardless of how you might feel about AI at school and in the workplace, what this says is AI is here to stay, and this is a critical skill that we need to impart on the students of today because they are the workforce of tomorrow. And these AI skills are essential not only for them, but also for us in our own career journeys. And the good news is this, I'm happy to report, AI adoption is really accelerating in education around the globe. That's true in K through 12. It's also true in higher education and academic research. There's more work ahead, of course, but we're making good progress, and we should celebrate that. In a 2025 AI in education study, we saw that AI adoption is accelerating in education actually at a rate faster than other industries. 86% of all education organizations around the world are now using generative AI in at least some form or fashion. That's not to say that it's ubiquitous, but there is good experimentation happening in 86% of those organizations around the globe, and that's the highest percentage of any industry on the planet. There's a lot to celebrate there. Across K through 12 and higher ed, we saw student use increase 26% just last year, and we saw educator use increase by 21%. Also really good gains. I'm happy to see the growth rate. I will tell you what keeps me up at night, though. It's the delta between those two percentages, right? We are still seeing student adoption and student use outpace educator use. And when that happens, right, when students are adopting new tools faster than educators can adopt them in the classroom and in their curriculum, suddenly we create a gap in oversight. And those students might be experimenting without the appropriate guardrails in place, and that could potentially undermine their learning rather than enhance it. So we've got some work to do here as an education ecosystem. We need to address this imbalance, and my advice and suggestion is, as educators, we just need to keep working on our own skilling, right? Keep experimenting, keep learning, keep trying new use cases, keep getting comfortable with this. Our students are natural experimenters. You all see this every single day. And they are native technologists. They are, in some cases, born with a smartphone in their hands, it feels. I have a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old at home. As Bill shared, I was the #1 woman in tech in the world. My kids show me how to do stuff on most days, right? So we need to recognize that they are going to experiment, and it's incumbent on us to try and keep up. And these students ultimately need to learn how to use AI responsibly in service to their learning, rather than sacrifice learning opportunities to it. So, in my conversations with education customers around the world, what I have seen frequently, especially in K-12, is there's a little bit of analysis paralysis happening because it's a target-rich environment for use cases. There are so many potential use cases here that sometimes I see schools and districts and institutions, even ministries of education, go, I don't know where to get started because there's too much opportunity here. And so when that happens, when we see that analysis paralysis, what we encourage people to do is just zoom out a little bit. If you think about all of the thousands of use cases for AI in education, for the most part, they can be boiled down to these 4 top-level buckets, right? Personalized learning is the first one, and we heard it in the introductory remarks as well. This includes personalized learning pathways, personalized lesson plans that are tailored to the unique individual learner and their interests and their current progress. It includes accessibility opportunities to meet students where they are. For instance, maybe you have a non-native English speaker in your classroom, or maybe you have someone with different abilities, diverse abilities. Those accessibility opportunities are huge here in personalized learning. And of course, competency-based progression as well. If you have a classroom of 30 kids, I guarantee you they are at very different places in their learning journeys. And it can be, your job is tough when you're teaching to the average frequently, right? AI can help with that competency-based progression, which allows students to progress at their own unique pace. So that's personalized learning. The second use case bucket here is educator productivity and task support. And when I think about this personally, I think that's the lowest hanging fruit of categories. This is a great place to get started because it's frequently low risk, high reward in terms of time savings. So think about all of the very manual, labor-intensive activities that go about your day-to-day, right? Those are the tasks that frequently are ripe for delegating to artificial intelligence. Maybe it's attendance tracking. Maybe it's administrative paperwork. Perhaps it's content creation. A lot of teachers love this. How can AI be used to help you generate lesson plans, rubrics, assignments, tests? How can it be used to help you collect supplemental materials that you could give to your students to increase their learning? That could save you hours of potential resource time. And of course, the big one that everybody loves, and I do too, communication aids. I bet you spend a lot of time in your inbox, and it feels like those emails never stop. You're getting emails from parents, from fellow teachers, from administrators, maybe from the school board, and you're responding to all this stuff, and you're trying to figure out how to triage it. You're creating class newsletters. You're working on progress reports. My goodness, that's a lot. That's a full-time job unto itself. That is an incredibly ripe opportunity for AI to help you with that. The third bucket here is institutional efficiency and decision support. And this applies, I think, to teachers and administrators alike. So thinking about how do we automate some of those back office administrative functions of running a school, running the business of a school, right? Scheduling, resource allocation, ERP, financial tracking, all these things that take up so much administrative overhead. There's frequently opportunities there for AI integration. Perhaps it's synthesizing data across enrollment, across retention, performance, resource use. That's going to give you actionable insight that you can use to proactively address potential concerns with particular students. Predictive analytics and recommendations, elevating your entire corpus of data to insights so you can do more with it and so it can support your decision making. And ultimately, all of this is intended to help administrators and decision makers in the school move from a reactive to a more proactive approach in a data-driven way, and hopefully faster than we have in the past. And finally, the fourth bucket here, I do think this tends to apply a little bit more in higher ed, but very applicable to K-12 as well, especially in the higher ed space, and I would say especially with STEM fields. It's accelerated innovation, right? So how do we use AI to speed up that discovery life cycle? How do we use it to increase the speed of our research, which will then drive outcomes at speed as well? Massive opportunities here. There are lots of examples I could share with you from academic research institutions around the globe and organizations like the Department of Energy, for instance. So accelerated innovation is a very exciting category. But again, at a high level, these are the four buckets or four categories for use cases for AI in education, and there are thousands of use cases that fall under each of these. So if you ever have that moment in your own AI journey where maybe you're struggling to get started or maybe you don't know where to go next, I would encourage you to zoom out, think about your challenges, your daily pain points, and the opportunities just in these four buckets, and that'll help you zero in on specific use cases to trial next. Now, I know specific examples are always helpful, right? We love to share use cases, but there's oftentimes the question that follows is, well, prove it, right? Where has this been done in the real world? Show me how my peers are already putting that into action. And I want to share 5 examples with you that my team and I personally worked on during our time at Microsoft. So disclaimer again, they're all Microsoft stories. But many of these customers actually are using multiple tools from multiple vendors. So choose whatever technology vendor works best from you. I'm going to start in the East here. We're going to start with Taiwan. Matter of fact, we talked about this use case a little bit at dinner last night. Taiwan National Normal University. This is a higher ed example, but I think it's very applicable to K through 12 as well. So this is a university that recognized, our students are going out into the world in a very competitive global economy. And they probably need some multilingual language skills if they're going to be successful, with English being a prime target. And so they put an AI-enabled learning platform in place that allows these students to have conversations with AI chatbots, and the bot will tune those conversations based on the student's interests, as well as their current proficiency level in English learning. So this is a great way for students to have a fun and engaging conversation that meets them at their own unique interests and levels, and it's advancing those English learning skills, and they're building fluency and confidence as they head out into the world. So this has been an extraordinary use case. They already have 30,000 students who are using that platform, and they're looking now to integrate other languages as well, which once you're set up is fairly easy to do. So that's NTNU, fantastic use case. If we move to Australia, this is perhaps my favorite K-12 example anywhere in the world, because I think the results here are just extraordinary. About a year and a half ago, Brisbane Catholic University, or rather Brisbane Catholic Education, which is a private K-12 ecosystem in Australia, they came to Microsoft and they said, okay, we want to experiment. We want to start with Copilot because it feels like an easy and trustworthy option for us. Let's start experimenting. And so they gave a Copilot license to every single teacher in that system. They said, you have 10 weeks, try and work on use cases that allow you to save time, and track, on average, your time savings per week. And at the end of that 10-week trial, we were all blown away by the result here. The average teacher in that school system saved 9.3 hours per person per week. That's more than a full workday, if you think about it. And more than that, what those teachers shared, because much like teachers in the US, they are overworked, they're doing all this stuff on nights and weekends. They said that helped them get their personal time back, right? So instead of spending hours at night answering email, working on lesson plans, they could speed up that cycle, and they got time back that they could invest in their own health and well-being. They could rest. They could spend time with family. Some of them started investing in their own educational journey and went back to grad school. And of course, it allows them to really focus their energies on what they do best, which is that student engagement. So just a phenomenal example of the power of AI for time savings. And that particular pilot has grown into a full-blown engagement in Australia, which I'm happy to see. If we move to the Middle East, so in the United Arab Emirates, the UAE Ministry of Education, they came to us with a vision, and they said, we want every single student in our K-12 system across the entire country to have an AI tutor bot in their pocket. On their phone, on their devices, we want everybody to have access. And they saw this for really two reasons. One, they wanted that bot to adapt to the students' unique needs, of course. So it would help with them as they progress at different speeds and as they have different interests. And there was also an equity play here. And I didn't realize this. The UAE has a vast disparity of wealth from family to family. And so there were some families who could afford very expensive private tutors. In some cases, that person lived in the household with the family. And in other cases, of course, that was outside of the family's reach. They couldn't afford a tutor for the student. It wasn't a possibility. And so there was suddenly this massive divide that was emerging in the education ecosystem, and they wanted to solve for that. So this AI tutor bot was really meant to bridge that divide, especially for families who couldn't afford a private tutor. And we already, in the early days, are seeing results where it is boosting the performance of those students who otherwise may not have access to help outside of class. So I think this is a good model for how can AI tutor bots be used to increase learning and also serve as an equity play for some students and for some families. If we move to South America, in Brazil specifically, Seduc Sao Paulo. So this is one of the biggest K-12 systems anywhere in the world. It is a massive school system. They are the largest public education network in the country of Brazil. They have more than 3.7 million students that are enrolled in the state of Sao Paulo, and that spans across 5,000 public and private schools. And they are using AI to help with assessment because they don't have enough teachers to meet the need for the growing student population. So they came to us and they're like, look, we know that teachers are always going to have to be in that assessment loop, but what if we use AI as a first line of defense? And so they put AI in place to do an initial grading of more than 3 million essay responses on a monthly basis. And that AI will take a first pass and look for grammatical mistakes, maybe some structuring challenges. It'll make recommendations to the student and give them actionable feedback. The student will go in and apply those changes, hopefully, and then they submit their final paper to the teacher. And this is saving, they're telling us this is saving loads of time on the teacher's part, and it's giving those students much faster feedback cycles that they can hopefully learn from. So lots of time being saved here, and this is really about focusing on the student engagement and how AI can bridge those resource gaps at the state level. And then finally, in the US, Wichita Public School System. So this is the largest district in Kansas. They have 47,000 students across almost 100 different schools. They are a nationwide leader in technology adoption. I actually didn't know that before I stepped into education at Microsoft a few years ago. Nationwide leader. They are always on the pointy edge of that spear when it comes to new capabilities. And so in those first few months after generative AI went public, they came to us and they're like, as soon as you can turn on Copilot in the education space, we want in. Which of course we love to hear, right? But their focus was really about how do we use these AI agents to support personalized learning and reduce teacher workload. So they have now put in place a variety of tools. They have a broad portfolio of technology tools. They will make different recommendations to teachers based on their desired use cases. Some of them are off the shelf, like Copilot. Others are custom AI agents that they are actually building in-house or buying off of a public marketplace somewhere. And teachers across the district are saying, this is saving us hours of time per week. We're automating tasks, we're building lesson contents, and we're creating future-ready skilling opportunities for students because they're already starting to bake it into their middle school and high school curriculum. So another exciting example, and I'd love to see that sort of leadership right here in the US. These are just a few examples out of literally thousands around the world. And again, across all technology vendors too. So if these are helpful to you, I would say subscribe to the education blogs at the big hyperscalers who are focused on education. So Microsoft, Google, OpenAI, and of course, the Magic Draws, the Canvas of the world, they are all releasing these public stories on how people are using this in the real world and in classrooms. And I think these are a great source of inspiration as you think about what use cases fit your needs as well. So what I will say is this, no matter where you are in your own AI journey, and I'm sure we're at lots of different places here in this room, that's okay, it's always helpful to see how other people are using AI. And whenever I go visit a school or a district or a ministry, they're like, show me the data. What are the top use cases for AI, especially in K through 12? And I'm going to share those with you today based on that AI in education report. The most popular use cases for educators specifically. Number one is using AI to brainstorm. And I think this is number one because it's low risk. You don't have to take the output of those prompts. You're just using it as a brainstorming agent, as a creativity agent. So 31% of teachers are using that particular use case. 29% of teachers are using AI to actually help create things. Lesson plans, newsletters, assignments, rubrics, and this number continues to tick up as trust grows from year to year. 24% say they are using it to help simplify complex topics for teaching students. This is especially popular in the STEM fields. So simplification is great. 24% are using it to gather and analyze performance data to look for trends so they can more proactively address potential challenges. 23% are using it to differentiate instruction, or in other words, make it more personalized for students. So I won't drain the rest of this chart. If you're interested, this is the AI in Education report that comes out annually from Microsoft. But again, I think it's fascinating to see the trends from year to year, especially as we start to trust AI more and start to use it more in our everyday workflows, especially in the classroom. Another great resource, if you're trying to figure out how do I use AI in my daily activities, there are these day in the life use cases and slides that all of the major hyperscalers release. This is a Microsoft example, but pick your tool of choice. And these are great because we interview real human beings who are really in the classroom and ask them how they're using AI. So this is an interview that we did with Deirdre. She's in the K through 12 space. She's a teacher. And on this particular day, she walks us through how she is using Copilot, ChatGPT, and other AI agents in her day. And at 7 a.m., Deirdre starts with her inbox, as a lot of us do. They always tell us not to do that, but we can't help ourselves, right? We're in our inbox. We're trying to triage the most important things that require actioning. We're looking for the emails that we got from parents or bosses overnight that require us to respond. And so her prompt is this. She says, Copilot, draft a professional reply to the head of my school outlining my development goals for the upcoming term. Be polite, clear, and confident. What I love about that is she even dictated the tone that she wants in that draft that AI is helping her with. So I think that's a great prompt engineering technique and one that I love to see. At 8:15 now, she's looking at the days ahead and she asks Copilot to help her create a lesson plan for the book the class is reading. They're working on the Iliad, and she asks for help with that lesson plan. And in this particular prompt, she says, align it with 8th grade learning objectives. Again, a really great prompt engineering technique. The more context and direction you can give the agent, most likely the better response that you're going to get. At 9 a.m., she's asking Copilot to create questions to help supplement the student's learning. At 11, she's working on creating a gradebook spreadsheet to track class progress. In the afternoon, she's taking her students to the library, and so she misses a curriculum meeting, but no worries. She has Copilot to essentially be her agent there for her, and so she asks it to catch her up on what she missed. This is my personal favorite use for AI. I do not enter any meeting anywhere now without an AI bot. I always ask permission first, right? That's a good practice. But it's fantastic for taking notes, for collecting action, for making recommendations. I have an agent that nudges me if there's an action that's been riding on my list for a while and I haven't responded to it. So really easy button use case there. And at 4 p.m., now she's wrapping up her day. She has a staff meeting in the evening, and she asks Copilot to help her prepare for this. So she says, review my slides for tonight's meeting, check for grammar, clarity, and completeness. This is another great use case. We don't know if she used it to draft those slides initially, but here she's using it as a review buddy, essentially. And so not content generation, but a peer review tool and an editing pal, which is a fantastic use case. So that is just one day in the life from a K through 12 educator. We thank Deirdre for sharing this with us, but hopefully you found this helpful, and maybe you saw some prompts in here that you could use for yourself. And so, this is the engagement portion. I'm not going to ask you to raise a hand and share with the group, but I would ask everybody to find a partner, maybe 2 or 3 people sitting near you, and I would like you to pause now and reflect and share with each other, what are 3 ways that you would like to experiment with AI this month? Could be big, could be small, could be a new prompt you want to try. Please share that with a buddy now. 3 ways. All right, let's take maybe 1 more minute, start wrapping those conversations. All right, let's come back together. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is yet another reason why I love teachers. When I ask y'all to engage, you actually talk to one another, and I love that. So thank you. I hope you all found some maybe new and exciting use cases that you're going to try. Please hold yourself accountable. Give those a try. And perhaps you found some new use cases from your buddies as well. So thank you for that. Okay, so we talked through the good stuff, the opportunities. I am optimistic by nature. I really think there's an extraordinary opportunity for us to use AI for good. But as I said in the beginning, we have to go into this eyes wide open as well. And love him or hate him, I think Elon Musk sums this up very well for us. He says AI is likely to be the best or the worst thing to happen to humanity. Holy cow. That's a statement. And you know what? He might be right. So I think what we need to do is constantly be having conversations like this about the perils of AI so we can work together across public-private partnerships and so we can govern technology providers and regulate the way that they develop and release new capabilities into the wild so we can hopefully avoid these pitfalls together. I want to share with you some top concerns by educators and school leaders around artificial intelligence. And what I will say is thank you. I mean, you guys are the ones who are elevating these so the technology companies know what to look out for. Top concerns we consistently hear from teachers around the world: plagiarism, cheating, the erosion of academic integrity, over-reliance and dependence on these tools by students, which would then get in the way of their learning, misinformation and inaccurate information. So this comes to hallucinations, right? We don't want an AI agent to give students the wrong information because that will hurt their learning. Privacy and security, especially for sensitive student and teacher data. You don't want your personal information to be used to train these language models that are used in the wild. And of course, not enough skilling. We hear this frequently. Folks are always looking for more skilling and more training opportunities so they can become more familiar with the tools and trust them more. So look, these are all totally fair concerns. And I think we have to talk about them so we can work to mitigate them. There's two of these I want to dive into specifically here today. The first is academic integrity, which I know is top of mind for absolutely everybody. And the truth is, look, students can use AI to cheat. I am sure that you have already seen examples of that. It can be used to generate essays, to solve for problems, to complete assignments with potentially minimal effort on their part. And I think as these AI agents continue to improve, it can be really hard to distinguish between student-generated content and content that was generated by an AI agent or maybe supported by an AI agent. There are some techniques like AI watermarking that we can use, but it is getting harder by the day as these agents evolve. And there are lots of people weighing in on this from around the world. I am sure you have your own thoughts on this as well. What experts usually agree on is we can't fixate on generative AI as a tool for cheating because that's the wrong focus for this problem set. And it's one we're probably not going to be successful in solving for. So instead, what they recommend is that we focus on teaching students how to use AI responsibly instead. It's a little bit like the calculator moment, right? It is here, it is a tool, they're going to use it in the workplace. We can't wholesale ban it or create a culture of fear around using it because that doesn't actually reflect the moment nor teach students how to use it in a responsible way. And so while the concern here for cheating is legitimate, we need to solve for the problem of helping students learn how to use it responsibly. That is a reframing of this academic integrity conversation, right? Show students how they can use AI in a way that supports their learning. Help them use AI as a learning partner, right? Perhaps show them how they can use AI safely to brainstorm, to decompose problems, to collect resources, to interview them as a study buddy, to strengthen their understanding of a challenging problem. This is going to advance their learning, and it's going to help them learn how to use AI in a safe and responsible way, and they're picking up skills that are going to be necessary in the workplace. So I know, quite honestly, that probably isn't going to sit well with some folks. This is a big, hairy problem. I truthfully don't think we are going to be able to solve 100% for the cheating problem, but I do think we need to advance this conversation away from AI is bad, so let's not use it at all, because students will find a way, to, look, AI is a critical tool. Yes, you can use it for cheating, but let's show you how to use it in a positive way that supports your learning and helps you gain these critical skills instead. And that will ensure that these students are ultimately set up for success. The second challenge I want to talk through, and this I think is gaining steam as a conversation, especially at the middle school and high school level, is this danger of the seemingly conscious AI. These AI agents are getting really good, really good. And in the beginning, I know there was a lot of hallucination, and you would look at the output and go, that is clearly not written by a human. Well, now they're really good at mimicking what a human response could look like. And it can be difficult, potentially for young people, to distinguish between an authentic human conversation and those human interactions and these AI responses that feel like they're conscious, right? This can distort a young person's understanding of relationships in a really dangerous way. If an AI agent feels sentient, students can form attachments to it. They might start relying on it for emotional support. They might start to outsource their autonomy and their decision-making to these agents, and that, of course, can be incredibly challenging and possibly even worse. So we need to make sure that students have some baseline, and I'm talking high level, but baseline understanding of how AI works so they don't view AI as a friend or as a mentor or potentially even as a love interest in the case of high school students, right? We need to show them how it works. At the root of it, this is a math engine. It is a predictive capability that is just predicting the next word after the next word. It doesn't think, it doesn't feel, it doesn't have emotions, it is not sentient, and we need to reinforce that with students so that they don't form these potential attachments to these seemingly conscious AI agents. We also, of course, need to continue to prioritize the human experience in these young people's lives. That is the truth of it. They need to have human beings as their primary source of friends, of coaches, of mentors. And so we should always position AI as a tool to support humans, of course, but not as a substitute for that real human connection. This is something we need to be acutely aware of, and as a parent, this is the thing that I think scares me the most about this AI moment, seemingly conscious AI. So wrapping up the perils, there's one more thought I wanted to share with you, and this is something that's been rattling around in my head for a while. It is this thought. In education, learning is built through periods of active engagement and struggle and friction with ideas. We learn through difficulty, right? We learn when our perspectives are challenged and then expanded. And AI has the potential to remove some of that cognitive friction from education, which is a dangerous thing to do. We don't want to make things too easy on the learner, because then they won't have the friction that's necessary for them to actually learn something. So we need to make sure that teaching and learning and pedagogy intentionally introduces some amount of creative friction and reflection so students can explore perspectives that currently may not align with their own or may be bigger than their own set of perspectives. This is what breeds curiosity and critical thinking and creativity and agency. And they are critical skills that I think the education ecosystem has always been uniquely and wonderfully positioned to instill in our young people, and we need to keep working on that. So we need to make sure that that cognitive friction is not removed from the educational process as a result of this AI moment. All right, I want to share a little bit about the promise for AI in education, recognizing these are still early days, of course. But I want to share a couple of studies that show where AI could be going and what the long-term impacts might possibly be for AI in the learning ecosystem. And again, it is too soon to answer any of this with certainty. We are 3 years out from ChatGPT being released to the wild. I don't think we will know anything for sure for another 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But we need to study and reflect. The first study comes from the University of Toronto. So they took a look at the many different ways that you can use AI to support learning in structured educational settings. And I'll be totally honest with you, these findings might seem a little obvious. I apologize for that. I think this is an important reinforcement of a hypothesis that many of us had. These findings illustrate that AI can improve student performance in math and writing specifically but it raises concerns about over-reliance. What they found at the University of Toronto is this: if we train AI agents to operate as a coach or a tutor that explains complex scenarios to students, that reinforces learning rather than just gives the right answer, that is far more impactful for that student's ultimate progression and progress in the class. That might seem obvious, but it's really important for us to remember. These tutor bots and these AI agents, the ones that are tuned as a reinforcement support, that give explanations for why an answer is something rather than just giving the answer, that makes a massive difference for the students in these classes. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind as we look to bake more AI and AI tools into our teaching and learning. The second study, and I hope some of you have already come across this, this one absolutely wowed me when I first read it. This was a six-week AI pilot that was run in Nigeria, and it was funded by the World Bank. And so they looked across the entire school system in Nigeria, and they randomly selected 800 students to participate in this study. And those 800 students had access to Microsoft Copilot in computer labs twice a week with guidance from a teacher, and they were specifically focusing on using Copilot to help them with their language skills and their grammar. Now, they had some agency where they could experiment with other subjects, but English language specifically was the primary result. And of course, the rest of the students in the study did their typical learning. They did not have access to an AI bot. And at the end of that 6-week pilot, they took a traditional pen and paper test. All the students in the school system, the ones who had Copilot in classrooms, the one who didn't, they all took a pen and paper test. And by the way, those 800 didn't have access to Copilot when they took the test. So everybody's on level playing ground when it comes to the test itself. And the results were stunning. Students who were in the AI pilot and had that Copilot instance in the classroom significantly outperformed their peers. Their scores improved by 0.3 standard deviations, which is the equivalent of 2 years of learning packed into just that 6-week pilot. That is an extraordinary delta in a very small period. And in addition to this, there was an unexpected equity component that was raised. In some classrooms, especially STEM classrooms, they said that girls who were underrepresented in those classrooms frequently didn't raise their hand to ask questions. It almost looked like they were not engaged. But when they looked at how those students were using Copilot, the girls who weren't raising their hands in class were asking a lot more questions of the agent than the boys who would raise their hand in class. And what they found was those girls, their progress scores rose on a much higher rate, so it leveled the playing field. They may have felt alone in that class and didn't want to raise their hand, but they were not afraid to ask the AI bot their question. And that is an important equity component, especially when we think about STEM fields. I'm a computer scientist. When I went to college, I was the only woman in my 2004 graduating class in comp sci, the only one. That is a lonely experience. And there were many times where I didn't raise my hand because I already don't look like everybody else here. I don't want to expose that I might be stupid or not understand something. You bet I would have asked a Copilot agent if I had had access to one then. So there is an important equity play, and I think it's one we need to continue to dig into and explore. With all that said, for these two studies, it still is far too early for any of this to be conclusive. We need to keep asking questions and keep doing research around what the long-term effects of this AI moment will be for learning. How is AI used in the classroom going to impact cognition and creativity over a 5, 10, 15+ year period? We don't know the answer to that. How will our interactions with AI agents and bots and tutors help shape our social skills and our learning habits for students as well as for us as humans more broadly? We don't know the answer to that either. And so more research is needed here before we understand the answers to these questions. I would not counsel you to stop experimenting for the next 15 years till we figure this out. I think we have to lean into this moment. And I think it's going to take partnership, public-private partnerships, tech industry, academia, government, NGO. We're going to have to work together to figure out what is the most responsible way that we can boost learning and drive better outcomes for all. And one part of that equation is going to be skilling for educators. That is so essential to this entire journey. As we saw in an earlier slide, students are adopting AI at a faster pace than educators. We know that to be true right now. Educators are struggling to keep up with the pace, I think in part because they are so overwhelmed. You guys have so much on your plate on a daily basis. It's hard to carve out time for learning. But this is really important. When we look at, we surveyed educators, people across the education ecosystem, to see how they feel about their ability in AI. What is your confidence level with AI? And you can see the results here. Educators were by and large the least confident in their own ability to use AI. IT administrators were high. School administrators were pretty good. Students were great. And teachers said, I am not confident. I have work to do. So my ask here, if you're an educator, keep growing your own skills, keep trying, keep experimenting, keep learning. If you are a school administrator, find opportunities to create time for skilling initiatives for your staff. This is so critically important. Grow your skills, grow your comfort level, experiment, refine, adopt, always keep learning and do it with curiosity. And please know that you don't have to do this alone. There are so many great resources available on the open web and through these tech companies, many of which are free. I shared just a few of them here. Teachai.org has a fabulous toolkit that's available on their website. So what they are is they are a coalition of education, nonprofit, and tech leaders that are helping governments and schools figure out how to lean into this AI moment and do it responsibly. So they have this toolkit that has many skilling journeys and pathways in it. I would highly recommend checking that out. I have to give a shout out to the Microsoft Education AI Toolkit. I think it's a great resource. Where it shined is with real world examples. It is going to give you many more use cases of where educators around the world are already using AI and seeing progress today. So if you're looking for examples or inspiration, that's a fantastic resource. Google and OpenAI both have free skilling pathways on their websites, specifically geared towards administrators, IT experts, and also educators. So check those out. AI4K12.org, so this is a joint initiative that's sponsored by the Association for the Advancement of AI and the Computer Science Teachers Association. And they are working to develop national guidelines for what AI could or should look like in the classroom. So watch that space. I do expect that they're going to include some age-appropriate recommendations as well. And I have to give a shout out for Minecraft education, especially if you are in the elementary and middle school range. They released a fantastic module, I think it was earlier this year to coincide with Hour of Code. It's AI Foundations. It helps students learn what responsible AI means in a fun game setting. And we found it to be massively popular here in the United States, of course, as well as Sweden and Switzerland and some of the Nordic nations. And I think this is going to continue to be a great resource if you are looking to introduce just the foundations of artificial intelligence to your students. Here's some more free tools for educators. I'm sure you guys are far more familiar with many of these than I am, but Conmigo is great, and matter of fact, they partnered with Microsoft to make many of their tools available for free to teachers in the United States on the Azure platform. Microsoft has a host of learning accelerators that are a low-risk way to get engaged. Math Progress and Speaker Progress are always our most popular ones. Magic School, Quizlet, Twee, I mean, I'm sure you know who these companies are. They are all leaning into the AI moment and partnering with hyperscalers in many cases to provide some capabilities to you, and most of them have free offerings. So it's a good and safe place to get started. I do want to reinforce before we close and move to questions here, the notion of responsible AI principles. We talked about the good, the not so good, in some cases the downright ugly of this AI moment. And I think as human beings and as institutions, we all need a North Star for how we are going to navigate through this moment and everything to come with artificial intelligence. My hope is that you all have a responsible AI policy in place at your schools and your districts already. If you don't, please, please work with your leaders and highly encourage one to be put in place. And you don't have to do that alone. There are lots of great examples on the open web for what this could look like in education, but typically when you see a responsible AI framework, it includes these 6 things: privacy, inclusiveness, accountability, transparency, fairness, and reliability and safety. Those, to me, are key ingredients of any responsible AI policy and framework. So spend time with your school leaders thinking about what this should look like for you and how this applies specifically to your classroom and your day-to-day activities. Matter of fact, I just helped TechPoint Youth, a nonprofit in Indiana, write one of these for themselves. So spend some time thinking about this and also know, what does responsible AI mean to you personally? It's going to be different for every single person in this room, and that's okay. But this is not about banning AI, it's about adopting and using AI in a responsible fashion that hopefully keeps everybody safe. So one more quick activity, you don't have to partner up, this is a private one, but I want to give everybody a chance to write this down before you leave this room today. If you could, please write down 3 things. What is one task that you are going to delegate to AI in the next, let's say, 2 to 4 weeks? One task you're going to delegate to AI. How much time do you hope to regain by delegating that task? Give yourself a goal. How much time do you want to save, and what will you do with those time savings? Maybe it's rest, maybe it's exercise, maybe it's personal learning, maybe it's spending more time with students. Whatever it is you want to do, give yourself a goal there. So I'll give you a moment to write those things down. All right. I see folks starting to put the phones and the pads down, so hopefully that was a worthwhile exercise. Try and hold yourself accountable to this, right? And actually reflect back on how much time did you really save with that prompt or that task delegation. And the other thing I would offer here is this too. We don't want to be gatekeepers to the amazing AI prompts. My team at Microsoft and my team at TechPoint Youth, we keep a prompt library. So whenever one of us discovers a super awesome prompt that saves time or gives us an incredible output that makes our lives or our jobs easier, we actually record that prompt in our prompt library and we share it with the team during a staff meeting. So take that time to actively share, because that's the best way we can learn from each other and keep growing and keep refining and keep improving. So I'll close, and I'm going to share a quote from Tim Cook because I think he said it the best here. The future of AI is in our hands. It belongs to us. We have an obligation and a responsibility here. And you all, as educators, are the ones who are shaping student experiences with AI, possibly their first experiences ever with artificial intelligence. You are the ones who are modeling on a daily basis what integrity and responsible AI use looks like. You are the ones who are helping to close that digital divide so we don't leave any students or communities behind by this moment. And you also are safeguarding the irreplaceable human element in education, even during this AI-enabled period we find us in. So as a STEM professional, but as a parent, I just want to say to all of you, thank you for what you do, truly. You are making a difference in the world. Keep learning, keep experimenting, stay curious. Again, I love seeing you all here because that shows me you're already doing all of those things. And if we keep the student at the center of everything we do, I am confident we will shape a future for education that is both transformative and human. So thank you very much. I think we have maybe 5 minutes for questions. All right. If you want to raise a hand, I know Dr. Watson is going to be our mic runner here today. We're helping him get his exercise this morning, I guess. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I'm really glad to be here, and your information was amazing.
Thank you.
What I am interested in is how AI can level the playing field for differently abled kids or disabilities. I see this as a huge game changer for many people with disabilities.
Yeah.
If you've ever looked at any of the statistics on these kids and growing up to adults, and the job statistics are terrifying for these kids.
Yep.
And parents are also worried about that. What do you have to say about that?
I think you're absolutely right that it's a massive opportunity. When I think about AI, I think there's an accessibility component that could be really powerful in a classroom setting and help meet each unique learner where they are. And I'll give you just one example, but there's so many opportunities here. At Microsoft, we actually partnered with the Department of Education in Sweden because the Crown Prince of Sweden himself he has dyslexia. Okay, and his father does. The king has it as well. And so they both remember how challenging their educational experience was because they struggled with that for a long time. And so we have worked together to find ways where AI can help identify predicted trends when students are struggling with something like dyslexia, and then tailor the approach to help meet those students where they are. Part of it, in this case, we built a Minecraft module together with them around dyslexia and helping students learn in different ways. But I think to your point, yes, very much so. Accessibility is a massive opportunity. And again, if we personalize the learning experience for each unique learner, for those who have different abilities and disabilities, I think it's going to make a world of difference for a lot of people. So that's just one example. There are hundreds. And I'm sure you're probably more skilled than I am in this area, but I think lots of opportunity for sure. Great question, thank you.
Thank you so much, Kate. I am here as the Director of Academic Advising for the College of Education, and I am really focused on trying to see how we can utilize AI effectively in academic advising, because you know we are in for that human connection.
Yep.
So could you give me a little advice, because I'm going to be looking for workshops that I can transfer some of those skills over into our profession?
Great question. And you're doing this at the higher education level or K through 12? Higher ed? Higher ed, okay. So one of the, I think, first areas where we've seen AI really help with academic advising is actually around career exploration and practice interviews. So we saw a lot of students in higher ed contexts coming to their advisors saying, I have this job interview coming up, it's my first one ever, or maybe I'm going to this career fair, I don't know what to expect, I don't know how to prepare. And there's a great opportunity to use AI agents to have those practice interactions and free up human time in which to do it. Matter of fact, I've interviewed for a few companies recently, and I have absolutely sparred with an AI agent to help me prep. Or perhaps they want to work with, let's say, an AI advisor to learn what a day in the life might look like in a certain role or a certain category of jobs. Or perhaps a university could train a language model over their curriculum, their entire class library, which could help students figure out what course should I take next semester, for instance. So I think there's lots of opportunities to aid the advisor process, keep it human, of course, but hopefully take some of the time burden off of those advisors while students have access to advisor agents. And this actually has been a really popular use case in Europe even before it came here to the US. So I think you are onto something there. Lots of opportunity. Love it. Thank you.
Thank you for all your good information. As teachers, I know a lot of times, especially here around Indiana with small rural districts, you're kind of on an island at your grade level or in your course. And one of the things that I see as AI filling a need as a thought partner to connect teachers, I go and work with teachers and I see these phenomenal teachers that have the most wonderful lesson, and I always wanted to figure out how to get that one best lesson that every teacher had and share that with other teachers. And how do you see AI as a thought partner fulfilling that need of connecting teacher to teacher, of sharing those best lessons?
I love that idea so much. I do think there are some, I'll say, privacy and copyright challenges we're going to have to overcome here. So for instance, Oxford University was attempting to do something similar where they wanted to create a library of all of their course content online that then they could create an agent to reason over and share out to other teachers, or maybe a teacher could come in and ask a question of the bot and it will go handpick the materials from that particular course and feed it back to them. The challenge is, of course, they want to keep that in the Oxford system. They don't want to give that for free because that's all of their intellectual property. So I think that there's an IT conversation to be had here around what do we want to protect and why? How do we do this? How do we expose all of the great content that we have and make it available to each other, but do it in, let's say, the privacy of our own tenant, right? So that's a conversation that I think needs to happen at a school-by-school, district-by-district level. But to your point, yes, I think there's a massive opportunity for coursework sharing, as well as training a bot to reason over that content so you can ask questions of it and have a more conversational experience rather than just, let's say, looking at PowerPoint slides. Yeah, thank you. Great question.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Leighton. I teach math at Brebeuf Jesuit in Indianapolis, and I found myself about a year ago trying to think about what kinds of things I would want an AI bot to do to free up that kind of time. And in searching, what I came across was almost a minefield of monetized AI systems or systems that were attempting to monetize and purported to have some either golden ticket or golden goose on, math. It's going to be you can analyze student written work and provide individualized feedback from a scan of messy pages with scribbles and all that. And almost everything that I came across that had some sort of advanced capability wanted money first.
Yep.
You're in this world with lots of tools, and even to an extent, Copilot and Gemini have multiple tiered subscription levels. GPT has multiple subscription levels. How do we navigate that minefield of free options, monetized options, while still trying to find the tools we need for the jobs we want to do?
Dude, that is a loaded question. And 100% agreed with you. Minefield is the right word for it. I think there's a few ingredients to this. I think first figure out what you're trying to do and why. Think about your IT policies and your responsibility framework around, what it is that you're trying to do. You touched on it a little bit there. There are some companies who what they're really monetizing is your data, right? And that is a dangerous proposition. And I think a lot of times we don't even know that that's what's happening. So in that case, I would say make sure you have a good IT North Star in place so that you know where your data lives, where it's going, who has access to it. Can it be used to train a public language model or not? My hope is that it's a not in this case. And hopefully all of that will inform your decision matrix for how you choose technology tools and technology vendors. And this is probably my Microsoft bias showing, I do tend to trust the hyperscale-based solutions much more than like a one-off, because you know that that data is going to live in your tenant and your tenant alone and won't be used to feed the public model. Now, obviously, check your IT policies to ensure that, right? That was the case at Microsoft. But like if you're buying from some, how do I put this? Perhaps an unknown tech company that doesn't tell you what they're going to do with the data that you're feeding into the solution, you are putting yourself at risk. And I hate to tell people to go get that law degree and read the fine print, but we are in a moment where there is some of that needs to occur. Read the fine print, know what they're doing with your data. I know that doesn't fully answer the question. There's a lot of ingredients that go into evaluating your technology partners and choices, though. Yeah, thank you.
All right, I think we are out of time. I want to give a last thank you to Kate. I thought it was a fantastic presentation. We'll have this available. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll put this up on our YouTube just like we did with last year's keynote, so you can see it there. And Kate was kind enough to say she'll share her slides. One of my favorite things she did here was you saw the prompts she used for the images. Figuring out how to prompt well is such an important aspect of this. I really appreciated that aspect of her slides as well. I did want to remind you that on the online program, we also have a web page there for some of the resources we have here at Purdue that you can also see. There's so much content out there to help you along your way. But hope you have a great day. If you see me and you have questions, grab me and I can let you know where you need to be or what's going on next. But one last round of applause for Kate for her wonderful keynote.
Thank you.